Which paradox just mindfucks a person? Bryce paradox. From Wiki, the observation that adding one or more roads to a road network can end up impeding overall traffic flow through it. The paradox was postulated in 1968 by German mathematician Dietrich Bryce, who noticed that adding a road to a particular congested road traffic network would increase overall journey time. So I know this is just a silly thing, but at my old work, my department was food service. In our prep room, you had to always wear an apron. Always. No exceptions. When leaving the prep room, you had to take your apron off to prevent cross-contamination. The bosses were trying to figure out where to put the hooks. Inside in the back of the door, or outside on the wall. Edit. Always proofread before posting. That this page is intentionally left blank page. The page isn't even blank anymore. Fry becoming his own grandpa. The Banach-Tarski paradox is one hell of mindfuck. It's basically taking something and rearranging it to form another exact copy of itself while still having the complete original. Like taking a sphere, which has infinite points on it, and drawing line from every point on its surface to the center, or the core of the sphere. Then you separate the lines from the sphere. But because there is infinite points, you now have an exact copy of the original sphere. It's kind of hard to explain here, so just watch the source video on it for a more in-depth explanation. The UK triple lock that people moving to the UK experience, and X200B, need proof of address and photographic ID to open a bank account, need a bank account and photographic ID to rent a place, need a bank account and an address to get sent your photographic ID, and X200B, checkmate atheists. The coastline paradox. The more accurately you measure a coastline, the longer it gets, to infinity. The halting problem. You cannot create an algorithm that looks at a different algorithm and its input, then decide whether or not that algorithm will reach the end. This is too complicated to prove in a single Reddit comment. So watch this video if you are interested. https://yahoo.b/macm_mts_w4. Edit. Oh. Bugger. I'll prove it myself. Consider this scenario. Algorithm P is a copier. Give an input, and it will output that same thing as two separate outputs. Algorithm H is the algorithm that predicts whether a different algorithm will reach the end. It will halt. It accepts two inputs, the algorithm and the input for the algorithm, and outputs a so. If the algorithm halts an no. If the algorithm does not halt. Algorithm F is a algorithm that says a no. If it has given the input a no, it gets stuck in an infinite loop, does not halt. If it has given the input a so. Now combine all three of these algorithms in order to make algorithm X. Feed algorithm X as the input to algorithm X. First thing that will happen is that algorithm P will spit out two copies of algorithm X and gives them to algorithm H. Algorithm H now has to decide whether algorithm X will halt if given algorithm X. If algorithm H says so, X will halt. It will cause algorithm F to get stuck, and therefore X will not halt. If algorithm H says no, X won't halt. It will cause algorithm F to just say no, and therefore X will not halt. Either way, algorithm H is wrong. It is impossible to design an algorithm that can correctly predict whether any arbitrary algorithm will halt given a given input. Pinocchio says my nose will grow after I finish this sentence. Does it? The ship of Theseus always kind of fucked me. So, there's this Greek dude called Theseus, and he's on a very long boat trip home. His ship needs repair. They stop, replace a few rotten boards, and continue. Due to the particularly strenuous nature of this very long trip, several more of these stops for repairs are made, until, by the very end, not a single board from the original vessel remains. Is this still the same vessel? If not, when did it cease to be? One of my favorites is Zeno's paradox. In order to leave my apartment, just for example, I have to walk halfway to my front door. Then I have to walk half the remaining distance. Then half that distance, ad infinitum. In theory, I should never be able to reach the door. Now I love this paradox. Because we've actually solved it. It was a lively, we'll discuss debate for millennia. At least a few early thinkers were convinced that motion was an illusion because of it. It was so persuasive an argument that people doubted their senses. Then Leibniz and/or Newton developed calculus and we realized that infinite sums can have finite solutions. Paradox resolved. It makes me wonder what calculus we are missing to resolve some of these others. Edit. A lot more people have strong opinions about Zeno's paradox than I thought. To address common comments. 1. Yes. It's Zeno, not Zeno. Blame autocorrect and my own fraught relationship with homophones. 2. Yes, there are 3 of them. 3. If you're getting hung up on the walking example, think of an arrow being shot at a fleeing target. First the arrow has to get to where the target was, but at that point, the target has moved. So the arrow has to cover that new distance, but by then, the target has moved again, etc. So the arrow gets infinitesimally closer to the target, but doesn't ever reach it. 4. Okay, you think you could have solved it if you were living in ancient Greece. I profoundly regret that you weren't born back then to catapult our understanding 2 millennia into the future. 5. Yes, I agree Diogenes was a badass. I hope this covers everything. Jim is my enemy, but it turns out that Jim is also his own worst enemy, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, Jim is actually my friend. But, because he is his own worst enemy, the enemy of my friend is my enemy. So, actually Jim is my enemy. But, the Boltzmann brain. The idea goes something like this. In any system, there is a tendency for entropy to increase, which is another way of saying that everything tends to spread out. In a room full of gas, the gas fills the room. It does not pack itself in a corner. However, because of the weirdness of quantum fluctuations, it is possible for particles to just spontaneously arrange themselves into more complex configurations. It might take trillions and trillions of years, but if you watch that room full of gas long enough, sooner or later you would see all of the gas pack itself into one corner before spreading out again. Or, you might see the gas arrange itself into a fully functioning human brain, complete with false memories, senses, and a brief spark of consciousness. Of course, entropy would quickly take over again. The brain would dissolve back into gas almost immediately. This is also hideously unlikely. But over an infinite time the laws of physics tell us this is not just likely, it is inevitable underscore. So which are you? Human? Or Boltzmann brain enjoying the briefest moment of your fictional life before you dissolve back into space dust? Edit. Wow, this blew up. Glad I was able to share the existential dread of Boltzmann brains with everyone. A few follow-up points. 1. True. This is not really a paradox. Mostly just a mindfuck. 2. Something I left out of the original post to keep it simple. A Boltzmann brain universe, i.e. one briefly conscious brain, is arguably much simpler than the impossibly vast universe we think we observe. Perhaps it is actually much more likely that you are Boltzmann brain than the human you imagine yourself to be. 3. I'm not a physicist. Hopefully I did a decent job of introducing the concept and answering some follow-up questions. But you might check out the Wikipedia entry https://n wikipedia.org/wiki/boltzmann_brain or the PBS Spacetime episode https://www.youtube.com/watch v=nhy4z_30 to Keiko on the concept to get a deeper understanding. 4. Although philosophically similar to the idea that we are all just the extremely unlikely product of random chance, the Boltzmann brain concept says something physically quite specific and distinct, that there is no universe, you are the only thing that exists, and only for a moment, and that by a certain interpretation, the laws of physics say this is likely. 5. On the other hand, yes, this is exactly like the DVD logo hitting the corner of the screen. Newcomb's paradox. There are 2 boxes, A and B. A contains either $1, 000 or $0 and B contains $100. Box A is opaque, so you can't see inside. Box B is clear. So you can see for sure that there is $100 in it. Your options is to choose both boxes, or to choose only box A. There is an entity called the predictor, which determines whether or not the $1,000 will be in box A. How he chooses this is by predicting whether or not you will choose both boxes, or just box A. If the predictor predicts that you will 2 box, he will leave box A empty. If he predicts that you will 1 box, he will put the $1,000 in box A. He is accurate an overwhelming amount of the time, but not 100%. At the time of your decision, the contents of box A, i.e., whether or not there is anything in it, are fixed, and nothing you do at that point will change whether or not there is anything in the box. It is a paradox of decision theory that rests on 2 principles of rational choice. According to the principle of strategic dominance, there are only 2 possibilities, and you don't know which one holds. Box A is empty, therefore you should choose both boxes to get $100 as opposed to $0. Box A is full, therefore you should choose both boxes to get $100 as opposed to just $1,000. Therefore, you should always choose both boxes, since under every possible scenario, this results in more money. But, according to the principle of expected value, choosing 1 box is superior because you have a statistically higher chance of getting more money. Most of the people who have gone before you who have chosen 1 box have gotten $1,000, and most that have chosen both boxes have gotten only $100. Therefore, if you analyze the problem statistically, or in terms of which decision has the higher probability of resulting in a higher outcome, you should choose only 1 box. Imagine 1 billion people going before you, and you actually seeing so many of them have this outcome. Any outliers became insignificant. In terms of strategic dominance, twoboxing is always superior to honor boxing, because no matter what is in box A, twoboxing results in more money. Honor boxing, on the other hand, has a demonstrably higher probability of resulting in a larger amount of money. Both of these choices represent fundamental principles of rational choice. There are 2 rival theories: causal decision theory, which supports strategic dominance, and evidential decision theory, which supports expected utility. It is pretty arcane, but one of the most difficult paradoxes in contemporary philosophy. Robert Nozick summed it up well: to almost everyone, it is perfectly clear and obvious what should be done. The difficulty is that these people seem to divide almost evenly on the problem, with large numbers thinking that the opposing half is just being silly. Edit. I made some edits to make it clearer. Edit. There are also an offshoot of Newcomb's paradoxes called medical Newcomb's problems. I've been in a situation like this before. I'll describe it. I went on an antidepressant, and there's a history of manic depression in my family. My psychiatrist told me that for some people, antidepressants bring out their manic phase, and they find out they have manic depression. They already did have manic depression, so it doesn't cause it, it just reveals it. She told me to watch out for any impulsive decisions I'm making, as that can be a sign of a manic phase. I was in line at a convenience store and thought, should I buy a Black and Mild? I don't really smoke, but for some reason it seemed appealing. Then I realized, that seems like an impulsive decision. But, if it is an impulsive decision, and I go through with it, and do indeed have manic depression, then I should just do it anyways. After all, it's not making me have manic depression. It's simply revealing something to me that I already had. On the other hand, if I don't do it, then I have no evidence that I have manic depression, meaning that there truly is less evidence, and therefore I have no reason to believe that I have manic depression. Expected utility equals don't buy the Black and Mild, strategic dominance equals buy the Black and Mild. These situations aren't quite as easy to see, but they are interesting anyways. I'm doing quite well now, and all indication is that I do not have manic depression.